second session of YMT112 Algorithm and Programming 2 tutorial of Chapter 10. This is the second session. We will discuss the second question. Write a Java program that opens the file, the text file, scores.txt. Actually, I should write file here, the file, to store numerical scores of students, and then your program should allow the user to determine how many scores to enter. Then the program should calculate and display the average score. Well, these things we already know. However, there are few things to discuss. Consider the following cases, not including any exception handling mechanism. This is a problem, and we need to see how we can overcome it, including exception handling for the file name of opening, file name or file when we open the file, including exception handling for a wrong score, parsing or entry, okay? Multiple exception handling. So we need to address all of those. We are familiar with the files. We discussed them before. However, for this case, let me create a file here. Okay, I'll call it exception. Exception, I'm sorry. Exception. Example 2. So we're familiar. I was telling that we are familiar with exception files. We studied them before, and we know how to open a file for writing, we open a file for reading, or we open a file for appending, and so on. So what's requested from us initially is opening a file for reading. Well, in this case, for writing, I'm very sorry. We need to use print writer. This is the most suitable for this case. So print writer, and then give a name to an object of a file for creating the object to be used for writing. You can give it any reference name. It doesn't matter in this case. It's not a problem. So new print writer, and not writer. Okay, and then print writer, and here we have to provide the name of the file. What was the name given to us was scores.txt. Now I have to tell you, I have to remind you actually, because we spoke about this before, if this file was available, it will be erased and it will be displayed from the beginning, from zero, from scratch. So if you already have this file, it will be overwritten and a new file will be created. So I have to warn you that you will lose your data if it is available. Now, why do we have this kind of warning here? Well, because it's telling us there is an exception actually to be handled. Sorry, not exception. We need to import the package or the class where we can get the definition of print writer. Well, I can import this one directly, or I can type it. I can import this one directly. It's more suitable for me at the moment. Okay. Still, there is another problem. Why? Because this is what I was referring to. Unreported exception file not found exception. Well, can we write a program without handling this exception? Let's see. This is exactly the first part of the question. So now, what is requested from us is to open this file. We have already opened it. And then we need to create a writing mechanism. We need to write to this file. Let's create a scanner. Well, for the time being, we don't need actually a scanner. What we need to do is we need scanner for receiving from the user. I'm sorry, because we said in the question we need to receive something from the user. So we need to create a scanner from the keyboard. So this is the object that will scan for us. And we are receiving from the keyboard. We said allow the user to enter the number of scores to be received. Okay, so we're receiving scores, and we tell the user how many of these scores you would like to enter. And for sure, we need to import the scanner or the whole utility. It's up to you. I don't have to import all of them. You can put asterisk here. Well, it doesn't matter for the time being. This will do for us. All right, so now I need to receive the number of the scores that I will enter, so I have to define an integer number num. And then the question is asking us also about calculating the average score, right? Yeah, so we need to calculate the average score, so we need to create a double, an accumulative sum that starts by 0. Double, okay. So this is my accumulative sum, that I will just sum up all the scores that will be stored to the file in this sum. Okay, so we created those. Now we need to create, we need to receive the number of scores from the user. So I have to prompt the user to what to enter. Now I will tell the user, or we should actually tell the user, enter the number of scores. Okay, and then receive these scores. Num equals keyboard dot next. Since this is an integer, we read it directly, or we receive it directly by integer. Okay, we received our number. Now what we need to do, we need to loop so that we receive all the scores inside the loop from number 1 to num inclusively. So for integer I equals 1, okay, I less than equal num, increment by 1 each time, because each time you read the score, you finish, you're done with it, so you don't read it again until you reach to the last one. Now we need to tell the user what to enter, so we need to prompt the user about what he or she is supposed to enter. Enter score. Now, since we are going to enter scores, I can tell which one we are supposed to enter. Connect this one to I, so we have a concatenation here. So enter score I, so score number 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. And then next to that, I'll just give some sort of, you can say display like this, score 1, 2, 3, okay. And then we receive the score from the keyboard, so I have score. Did I define it? I didn't, so I can define it here. So I declare for a score as a double, so then I receive it from the keyboard, keyboard dot next double. We are reading double now from the keyboard. Okay, we read the score. So what's requested from us is calculating the average mark. Well, we can do it separately, or we can initially store the values to this text file because it's requested from us to store it, and then sum up in a separate process. Why would we bother? We don't have to create a separate process, so what we do is sum plus equal score. This will create for us the accumulated sum. So the accumulated sum allows us to get the average by dividing by the total number of scores. Now I need to store these scores, or each score, to the file, or to the file that I just opened here. So in order for me to do so, I can use the file object name dot print and give it a new line each time. That will be more readable. So what are we going to write? We will write to the file score line by line, so this will allow us to write a line each time to the file. So each score will be written on a line, and then next score will be written on another line, and so on. So now we're done with this scenario of opening a file, reading from the keyboard, storing to the file, summing up. So what we need to do, we need to do two steps. The first one, if we are done with the file, we should close it. Use the object file dot close, and then let's display the average score. So I can say the average score, and then I concatenate it with the exact average. The exact average is calculated by this total sum divided by the number of scores. Now remember that number is integer, however the sum here, the summation, is double, so we don't have to cast any of those, because a double division, or division between double or mixed type of double and integer, will be promoted to double all of it, so we will not have any truncation in the outcome here. Well, that is enough for this part. However, can we run this program or not? Let's try and see. And I have a point. I know it will not run, it will have a problem, but I want you to see and visualize with me what this problem is and how we can solve it. Okay, exception. This is exactly what we are looking for. Exception in thread main, java.language_lang runtime exception and compatible source code and reported exception, java.io input output file not found exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. Well, if you remember before, I taught you one method to be used in file in and out. We said that we should throws IO exception. This was taught to you before, and when we use such a thing, we need to import its IO package. So we need to import it. Now you may ask me, why do not you use io.asterisk? Well, you can use it for this one and this one, that's fine, but I prefer to put them separately to make sure that I have no problem, no clash of any of these packages or problem with not listing any of the packages, okay? This will allow us to throw an exception, and this exception, or telling that the whole main method is potentially throwing an exception, and this exception is of type input and output. In file, out file is one of them. So in this case, we can run and see how things will go. Well, enter the program works now. Enter the number of scores. Well, let's just go easy. Let's take 3 scores. I'm typing in the wrong place. Let me go to the result here. 3. Well, let's say 80, 90, 100. And do not ask me why these values. You can put any value you like. You can put any result, any score you like. So these scores are up to you. Actually, you can enter whatever value you like. Okay. So the average score, of course, is between these 3 values is 90. And how do we know whether this file is being created or not? For sure it is, but if you are not quite sure, go to this package, this source, go to NetBeans file folder and go to this particular package, open it, and you will find this file.txt. So you will find this file, sorry, scores. You will find it. You can open it and see its contents. Well, we could manage this exception, and this is the traditional way that we learned. However, this is not the question. What the question is asking us, not including any exception, we managed this one, so we couldn't. Including exception handling for file name opening. Well, this is not exactly it. So we need to include some other way. Let's get this one at. So we know that this potentially will create or throw an exception. We can use try. So try will allow us to encapsulate all this potentially or the source of potentially creating a problem inside this. Well, for the last line, it doesn't actually need to be because it's just printing. We can place this one here. By the way, these declarations do not have any problem. You can put them out of the try. It's not logical actually including them inside the try because they are just normal declarations that may not raise any exception. Let me just arrange the scope so that it will be more readable for us. You will visualize it in a better way. Okay. Okay. So yes, this is better. This is better. Okay. Okay. So file close also. File close. If the file was not actually properly opened, then we will have a problem with closing it. So it may raise an exception or throw an exception. So let it be inside the try block here. So this block will also have the close of the file or the closing of the file. Now, this kind of display can be here outside of the try. It doesn't matter. If you want to include it inside the try, is also fine. It's not a problem. But in this case, you have to make up your mind. If sum is based on this code inside the try, well, you better include it inside the try so that you don't have any source of potential problem. So include it inside the try and make sure that it is considered. Why? Because we have some processing here, so it may affect the outcome of the display. So all these codes inside try block may potentially create a problem because of the file creation or generation. So now we need to catch the exception, because we said that try, that means we have to create the catch clause, and this clause will allow us to present the type of exception that we may face while opening a file or creating a file. We can use file not found exception, and I say it's an exception, and then here I display its maybe default message except.get message. Let's see what kind of warning, what's this swirly line, that most probably because I don't have the definition of file not found, so I need to import this definition. You see it's java.io input output file not found exception. I have to import it now. Everything is done, everything is settled, so I don't have any swirly line, any potential problem within these codes. Okay, let's try to run and see whether our exception handling is working or not. Seems it is just fine. So number of scores 3. Let's go easy so that we quickly finish this program. As I said earlier, 80, 90, 100. Okay, that's it. So well, I could manage writing certain exception other than just throws an exception. You may tell me there are other exceptions with files. That's true, and you should actually check them. There are so many exceptions, and you should go through their classes and their hierarchies. We will have another question explaining about the hierarchy of the exceptions and which one comes before which, and which one is actually the polymorphism or represents a polymorphism scenario of another, and how we can deal with them. So this is the idea. That's enough for this session, and I hope you guys will enjoy it and benefit from it. See you in the next session. Goodbye.